What's going on, y'all? Yeah, I'm sorry about there being some missing videos. Content's been dry anyways, right? So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on. I'm telling you, the Xfinity is really making me mad. The power line installation is still taking some time, and hopefully we get stuff going today. It's just really annoying. But yeah, let's get right to this. Steam Machine, in this topic right here, people are wondering, and Digital Foundry is also covering this too, if it should get console-like optimized settings like the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox. And if not, could it have something like NVIDIA's optimizers? You know what I mean? Otherwise, people are going to be sitting there going crazy, definitely for the newer games, trying to get maybe 1080p 60 frames per second or something else. So we see in this video, should all games boot with optimized settings selected? You know, kind of like a performance mode. I want a 1080p 60 valve, so can you automatically configure this for me? Because if you're going to give me that console-like experience, I'm wondering if you just be able to save myself time. I don't want to spend an hour, 2 hours with a video game I just got, right? Or games I want to try. I want to get right in there and I want to try it. And if you can just optimize that for me, then I can select something else that I want. I think that would be nice. And then they have like things about should developers do that for you for games for Steam Machine specifically? Or are they so damn like bombarded with all those other settings, are they going to ignore it? There's something interesting to talk about in this video, so that's what we're going to be doing. So like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you guys think about this. And if you have anything to add in, let me know. Here we go. Let's see what DF has to say.
Hi from Texas! Exclamation point. With the Steam Machine rumored to be somewhere between Xbox Series S and the PS5, do you think that Steam and/or developers will add a quote-unquote Steam Machine graphical setting that's optimized for the quote-unquote console, or automatically enable the optimized settings? So this is something we've been talking about for ages, years, Alex. The concept that when you actually boot a game, you are given default settings that are essentially equivalent to what a console is doing.
Exactly. And I'm telling you right now, guys, like sometimes when it happens too, maybe it may not be what you want, but it depends. Valve can end up having a better optimizer than what most people do if they set it up correctly or they integrate that into the Steam Machine. It could be something like a unique feature. And then, of course, developers want to help out with certain things as well. It's going to be interesting to see what Alex has to say.
Yes. Where developers have already made the trades. They've decided what are optimized settings, and they give you to them straight off the bat, and you tweak from there. I think Steam Machine might be a vehicle to make that happen, but it's very rare that it's even happened on Steam Deck.
Yes. So, yes, I guess it's been left up to developers at this point, more or less. And once again, things that are left up to generic developer, who doesn't exist, by the way, you're going to see people who care a lot about this device and magically, implement something specific for it, just like we see on PS5 Pro. Some developers do a great job on it. Other ones really don't. And just like for Steam Machine, we're going to see the same thing where you load up a game per default. It may have good settings. It may not. Monster Hunter Wild probably is going to default to some wrong settings versus, I don't know, a Nixie's title, right?
What he just said was actually important and exactly what I'm talking about. Just because developers do get involved, do you really think they have their best heart and interest for something that's not going to make them the most profit and sell the most copies? You know what I mean? And that's the thing, like they're looking at that, they're like, yeah, we can help out, but does that guarantee you a perfect optimized game? No. But could that get you to where you may want to, and you may have to tweak a little bit so you're not messing around with it too much? Yes. And I get what Alex is saying. So it can sometimes be a mixed bag. And that's where I feel like if they're going to be doing that, Valve should have some optimizer in there, kind of like the way NVIDIA has it. And then you guys should probably tweak around with that a little bit. But I think overall, this is something that we should talk about, because I think maybe if they look into it, they would think about working on that right now, because it's not something I don't think they would take forever. But it is something to think about, considering your 8 gigs of VRAM. Like, what would be the best setting for my machine, since I know I'm going to have 8 gigs of VRAM? Could you possibly have something that could say, hey, this is a VRAM setting, this is a VRAM setting, so be careful. You'll be able to mess with this, but these are VRAM heavy. It helps out. I'm telling you, this is something that I think should be on a lot of things going forth. And it's something that I want to add in this video.
So that's it. I think relying on developers, though, is probably not the best way to do it. I think Valve actually has the ability with their games after install and maybe after first boot. It depends on when INI config files are actually generated for the game, but they have the ability to kind of like GeForce. What do they call it? The optimization routine in GeForce. Is there a specific name for it in GeForce app?
I'm pretty sure this is what it is, Alex, the NVIDIA optimizer. Where NVIDIA's app firmly GeForce Experience game optimization features the automatic adjust in-game settings and the Tensor RT model optimizer. Like when you pull up the NVIDIA app, you know how you could do that. I don't need it because I usually like to check my own settings customly, but this is what he's talking about, the NVIDIA optimizer.
I think
the NVIDIA app.
Yeah, it's not the NVIDIA app anymore, is it? I don't know. I haven't really
paid
close enough attention.
I forget the name of their automatic optimization routine. Basically, where they change the game's INI file based upon something that they think is better. I don't know the metrics about how they make that, to be honest with you, but that's what they do. They change it after the fact. And I think Steam Machine could do that even better, potentially, because it is one spec instead of a range of specs that NVIDIA has to deal with. So I think the best way would be to not rely on developers. And in this case, actually Valve, through either some sort of curation on their end or community sourcing of settings, that could maybe come as a pop-up before the game starts. They can throw anything they want before a game starts, technically, using the Steam interface. And they could make you say, like, oh, do you want to play this game at 1080p 60?
Right.
For example.
Yeah.
And I could do that for you. So I think that would be the way I would do it. Make it as much on the system front end as possible versus in game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I've been thinking about this because I think for Steam Machine specifically, it kind of has to happen. I was a bit disappointed when I actually spoke to Microsoft about the Xbox Ally X. It's like, okay, well, you say you've tested 1,800 games and you've got compatibility levels. Well, surely when you were doing that work, you must have figured out what the best settings were. Why don't you give it to the users? And again, the excuse, or rather the rationale, to be a bit more accurate there, was that, hey, maybe the developers should be doing this. But I do think the platform holder has to take a certain degree of control, right?
Yes, I agree with him. This is what I say, where it's like Valve for their own platform should have some type of optimizer, and then the developer should have theirs along with it. And then when you get both of theirs, it gives you a good idea about how you can adjust around it, because not everybody wants to do everything custom like I do. I'm not joking. I go in there, I test everything. And I like doing that, but I don't like spending way too much time, but it is a thing. And I think every PC gamer that has gamed on PC for years knows that sometimes you can get obsessed with moving around way too many settings consistently. I'm like, all right, man, I need to play the damn game. I'm sitting here doing this, and it's like, okay, man, yeah. And I think if a console like player, or oh my god, I'm thinking too much Steam here. If a console player comes into the PC world, because we know the Xbox players are doing that a lot now, and they have been, and they decide to pick up a Steam machine, or somebody gets that, they're gonna probably want that type of experience. So I think if Valve wants to appear console-like to an extent, you better have a console-like optimizer. You know what I mean? Because it kind of makes sense. Like, it's just going to help their system. They need as much unique things as possible, considering that price ballpark is going to be pretty pricey to a console to a console player's, damn it, Valve, to a console player's mind. Definitely if you're thinking about the living room and that plug and play option. You know what I mean? I mean, it just helps, So, and who knows what the damn prices are going to be, and who knows what the hell else can pop up. I don't even want to think about it. And
surely, they can have the resources to have a small team of people to actually come up with optimized settings. I mean, if us and other people on YouTube are doing it, why not Valve? Secondly, they've got a direct through line to the developer. So maybe they should just say, right, okay, well, what are your closest equivalent settings on your Xbox Series X and your Series S?
Exactly.
and go from there, and then tweak from there for a better experience on Steam Deck. I think that's on Steam Machine. I think that's kind of like, it's doable, and it would save a lot of headaches. And I still think it's probably the last hump in the road from basically turning PC into more of a sort of plug and play, user friendly console like experience. Don't know what you think about that, Oliver.
It's a very good saying. That's what I was basically saying, guys. Like, if you're going to take that approach into the living room, and you know how that is in people's memory for the longest time, you need to make sure you kind of have that to where they're not like, oh, dude, I don't want to customize everything. That's kind of what PC's for. Don't we know it's a PC that is giving you a console-like experience? So that's the thing, what we just said, console-like experience. So that means I want to have that the optimizer aspect waiting there for me. I would be fine because you know what I mean? I like my custom settings anyways, but I think it saves people a lot of time. Definitely if you're thinking about that experience. You know what I mean? Because what's the point then if it's just going to be full like a PC? No, you kind of want that hybrid aspect of, okay, I have the PC stuff, I have the custom aspect, I have my mod stuff, and then I can have the console-like optimization. And it's going to be needed with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. And the reason why this would be nice is for future Steam Machine upgrades like Steam Machine Pro. Now I don't have 8 gigabytes of VRAM no more. Now we can take it more to the next level. And it just sets things more in place for the foundational placement, which is the entry-level Steam Machine, which we're going to be seeing. Because I'm going to call it that because I know there's going to be more. So...
yeah, I do like Steam Deck presets and games that offer a Steam Deck preset. And I think Steam Machine presets could be interesting. And there could be a good basis there for mainstream systems, 8 gigabyte systems, to kind of piggyback off that work in the same way that gaming handhelds in games like Cyberpunk that have Steam Deck presets get to piggyback off that work and actually get a better and more optimized experience by using that preset. But I think that if you're leaning on developers to provide your kind of Steam Deck optimized settings through a preset, your Steam Machine optimized settings through a preset, that is a serious area of concern because developers are not typically going to offer things like that for what is ultimately a very small percentage of the PC gaming market. But of course, there is an API for developers to spec out optimized settings for Steam Machine devices. It'll be interesting to see how often that is used.
You see, guys, this is what I was saying earlier in my video, that they're going to look at that and be like, oh, this is just optional extension. I mean, it's not like it's the main market like PlayStation, you know what I mean, or Nintendo, where it's like, I have to do this because I know this is going to sell millions of copies. And no, we have all these different settings. Yeah, well, sure, we'll give you this, but you know they're not going to put their heart and soul into it. And it's not beating down anything. This is literally what they will do, the majority of them, you know what I mean? They're not looking to say, oh, yeah, we need to make sure Steam Machine. No. Valve's going to have to take that responsibility more than they are. They are. And this is something that we need to be aware of because this is something that if you plan on migrating to the Steam Machine, buying one, or just getting that Valve extension universe that you want to be in with your Steam app, your Steam Deck, and your Steam Machine, you're going to be looking at, towards this. You know what I mean? So that's why I think this is definitely an important video because this is something that is going to save people a lot of time. And Valve, I'm giving you an idea already. Help people out with VRAM settings and let them know this is a VRAM setting. This is a VRAM setting. It would help. You know what I mean? Because otherwise people do not know if they're going to be turning up something that's going to be VRAM oriented. Obviously, I could just tell you, stuff like textures, global illumination, and resolution, but there's still going to be people that are not going to see this video. And there's going to be other things going to be like, man, what the hell? Why am I getting 17 frames per second? It's like you may have up a setting that is exceeding VRAM limitations. And they don't know that about the GPU. You know what I mean? They may just think of RAM as just the RAM you put in inside of a system. It's like, no, that's memory. And loading up areas real fast, that's not the same as GPU virtual memory. So,
Kind of actually suspect in this case that even if you don't have optimized settings on the jump for your game, just opening it up, I think because the system has a lot more capability, that shouldn't be as necessary. So whatever the default the game would stick you with on like medium settings, for the most part should work just fine. So I actually don't think this is as strong of an imperative for developers to step in and do something about this issue relative to a handheld system.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that the easiest solution here that could be adopted is simply for the developer to put in their PS5 settings as a standard.
Yeah.
And then basically that would, a lot of the heavy work in terms of tuning it to specific setups or GPUs would be done by just the fact that they're using like a 1080p screen rather than a 1440p or a 4K screen. You know, that's kind of the way I see it. You know, you're saving a lot of GPU time just through adjustments to resolution that would fit the kind of class of hardware that PC would have anyway. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
There we have it, y'all. There's a really good video. Let me know what you guys think about this. Honestly, like Oliver said, you know, I wouldn't worry about developers. Valve should take this into their consideration. And I agree with him on that, because once they have it and everything is balanced with their optimizer, developers don't really need that, because you can already have what you need from all the other optimizations that they've already done. So this is Valve's platform, and if they want to make it appear like a console, they should definitely take it into their hands and have that system ready, because NVIDIA took it into their own hands, even for their own app process, if you get what I mean. And Steam usually has a lot of great things on it to help people big time. But like I said, more than anything, that VRAM identifier will let you know that this is VRAM heavy, this setting's VRAM heavy, would definitely help people out a lot. So there we have it. That's pretty much it on this. Steam Machine seems to be definitely a topic lately, so it's just cool having something different to talk about rather than all the, you know, console warring and all that other stuff. So yeah, look out for that. All right, y'all. Peace out. Once again, you know how it is. We're covering things amazing on this channel. Later, y'all.